All right, third video. Let's see, we've got to solve a system where we have a quadratic and a linear, and they're both set up where it says y equals, so we just have to use substitution and set the quadratic equal to the linear, and then go ahead and solve this guy. Okay, obviously the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the fraction. It's going to make my life easier in the long run. Okay, so if I multiply straight through by 4, okay, it'll get rid of that fraction 3/4. So I'm going to get 8x squared minus 4x minus 12 equals 3x plus 20. And then we put it in standard form. Okay, so I get 8x squared. Let's see, I bring this 3x over, becomes negative, so I'm going to get a negative 7x, and then I bring this 20 over and it's negative, so I'll give it negative 32 equals 0. Okay, so I want to figure out, does this guy factor or not? Okay, so I go to my b squared minus 4ac and see what happens. So b squared will be 49 minus 4 times 8 times negative 32. Okay, so I'm going to get a 49 plus, notice that's 32 times 32, and obviously the negatives cancel each other off. 32 squared, I didn't plan on that. So 1024. Okay, so I'm going to get, 10, that would be what, 73? I'm pretty sure that's not a perfect square. I'll check it just to be sure. Square root 1073. No, it is not a perfect square. I didn't think it would be. Let's make sure I got 49 plus 1024. Yeah, okay, so this guy is not a perfect square. No perfect square. So that means that our discriminant is not a perfect square, so we're going to get irrational solutions, which means this doesn't factor. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Okay, so x is the opposite of b, so I get positive 7 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. I've already done that. That's 1073 all over 2 times a, so 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, now here's the problem, okay? I've got to find my solutions, okay? And my solutions, okay, are points where I have x and y, okay? So I'm going to have some, x, y. Okay, now the problem is these guys are just nasty, okay? And I think to myself, okay, can I take those two solutions and put them back in here for x and solve and get an exact solution for y? Yeah, but I guarantee you I would fill up all this page and another page doing that. So right now, I would say that, the fact that I've got to go back and evaluate, okay, using this number, is certainly going to make my life absolutely miserable, and it's going to take up a whole bunch of time. Okay, so why don't we, because it makes sense, okay, why don't we round those off? Okay, and let's see what happens. So I have 7 plus second square root 1073, okay, divided by 16, and I'm getting roughly about 2.48. 2.48, okay, and then I do minus, so I go 7 minus second square root 1073 divided by 16, and I get roughly about negative 1.61. Now, I've got to use these guys, okay, to go back up here. And I got to make sure, I know these are approximations, but I got to make sure I get roughly the same y coordinate in both functions, okay, for both of these, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and check these guys, Okay, and I'm gonna use the 2.48 first, and I know that's an approximation. Okay, so I go to the first function, 2 times 2.48 squared minus 2.48 minus 3. And I'm going to punch that into my calculator and see what happens. So 2.48 squared times 2 minus 2.48 minus 3. And I'm getting roughly, again, rounded off, about 6.82. 6.82 for my y coordinate. So let's check the other guy. Okay, let's go 3/4 times my x, which is 2.48 plus 5. Okay, so let's see what happens. 3ABC4 times 2.48, okay, plus 5. And I get 6.86. Okay, so you look at these guys right here, and you say, okay, well, they're pretty close. And don't forget, I'm using an approximation here. Okay, so I'd say one of my solutions, okay, will be 2.48. And let's see, I don't know, maybe I'll take the average between those two. Okay, so if I take the average between those two, I get 6.84. Okay, okay, so my average, okay, would be 6.84. Okay, so I'll use that. And I understand this is an approximation. I don't like doing this, okay? But when you think about all the work it would take to actually work with these exact irrational numbers, it's probably not wise to do it. Okay, so now we got to check x equals negative 1.61. Okay, so I go back up and I go 2 times negative 1.61 squared minus a negative 1.61 minus 3. And we see what happens there. Okay, so let's see, when I square it, it's going to be positive. So if I just go 1.61 squared, okay, times 2, and then this will be plus 1.61, and then minus 3. I'm getting, when I round off, roughly about 3.79. Okay, let's check, make sure I get something comparable over here. Okay, so we go 3/4 times negative 1.61 and then add 5. And let's see what happens. 3/4 times negative 1.61 and then add 5. I'm getting, when I round off, 3.79. Okay, so we should feel pretty good about that guy. Now, they come out exactly the same. Okay, so my other solution is approximately at 1.61, and it gives us a y coordinate at about 3.79. And again, I don't like to use approximations, but in this situation, it would probably be best, okay, if we do.